The courthouse smelled like old paper and disinfectant. Daniel Mercer noticed that before anything else. He noticed how the benches were worn smooth by decades of bodies waiting for judgment. He noticed the flags, the seal, the quiet authority of the space. He noticed how small his family looked sitting together, Laura rigid with exhaustion, Emily gripping her sleeve, an empty space where Caleb should have been. Caleb was brought in through a side door. He was thinner than the last time they'd seen him. His hair had been cut too short. His eyes searched the room until they found his family, and for a brief moment, relief flickered across his face. Then he saw the officers. Halvorsen sat in the front row, uniform pressed, posture relaxed. He didn't look at Caleb. He didn't need to. Brandt sat beside him, jaw tight, eyes forward. They looked like men who expected to be believed. The prosecutor spoke confidently. He described a volatile scene. A domestic disturbance. An uncooperative father. A teenage son who inserted himself into police activity. He used words like escalation and officer safety. He showed the body cam footage, carefully edited, carefully framed. The missing 47 seconds were mentioned only once. An unfortunate technical issue. The judge nodded. Angela Ruiz objected. The objection was noted. And overruled. When it was time for Caleb to speak, the courtroom leaned in. He had been offered a deal. Admit partial fault. Serve probation. Avoid a record. All he had to do was say he overreacted. That he misunderstood. That the officers were doing their jobs. Caleb stood. His hands shook. "I didn't assault anyone," he said. His voice was steady despite himself. "I was recording because I was scared. My dad had his hands up." The prosecutor smiled thinly. "Are you trained in law enforcement procedures, Caleb?" "No. So you don't actually know what a threat looks like, do you?" Caleb hesitated. "I know what fear looks like," he said. "I saw it on my mom's face." There was a murmur in the room. The judge struck his gavel. Hannah sat in the back row, heart pounding. She had submitted the server logs to the court. They had been excluded. Improperly obtained, the judge ruled. The irony burned. Hannah realized then that truth, on its own, had no power. Power decided what truth was allowed to be. The judge ruled there was sufficient cause to proceed to trial. Caleb would remain in juvenile custody until then. Laura's breath left her in a quiet, broken sound. Daniel stood too quickly. A bailiff stepped forward. "Sir," he warned. Daniel sat back down, shaking. Halvorsen finally turned and looked at them. He nodded once. Not in apology. In acknowledgement. That night, Daniel didn't sleep. He sat at the kitchen table, staring at the place where the ceramic bowl had shattered weeks earlier. Laura found him there at dawn, still in the same position. "I failed him," Daniel said. Laura knelt beside him. "No," she said. "They failed us." But Daniel couldn't hear it. He had done everything right his entire life. He had believed in rules, in systems, in fairness. And now his son was locked away. For telling the truth. Hannah published anyway. The headline didn't scream. It didn't accuse. It simply laid out facts. Internal records suggest body camera disabled before Mercer arrest. The reaction was immediate. National outlets picked it up. Civil rights groups demanded answers. The police department released a statement calling the article misleading and irresponsible. Halvorsen was placed on administrative leave. For 48 hours. Then reinstated. Daniel left the house alone. Laura assumed he was going for a drive. He never came back. They found him in his car at the edge of town, parked near the river. There was no note. Just his wallet on the seat and his phone face down. The official ruling was suicide. Laura didn't have the energy to fight it. Emily stopped speaking for 3 days. Caleb was told by a guard. He sat on his bunk, staring at the wall, and said nothing. Something in him shut down. Permanently. Public pressure mounted. An independent review was announced. Then delayed. Then quietly dissolved. The charges against Caleb were dropped, in the interest of justice. No apology was issued. No admission made. Officer Halvorsen retired early with full benefits. Brandt transferred departments. The police chief held a final press conference and spoke about healing. The Mercer house was sold. Laura moved with Emily to a smaller town where no one knew their name. Caleb never went back to school. He worked nights. He avoided cameras. He avoided uniforms. Sometimes he woke up reaching for a phone that wasn't there. Hannah won an award for her reporting. She kept the plaque in a drawer. She stopped believing awards meant anything. Years later, a new family moved into the Mercer house. They repainted the porch railing. They replaced the deck boards. They never knew what had happened there. Alder Ridge stayed quiet. The kind of quiet that looks peaceful. The kind that hides what it's built on. Police brutality is often discussed as a failure of training. Sometimes it is. But sometimes it is something colder. A decision. A system. A moment where power realizes it will not be punished. And acts accordingly.